Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're back. We're going to do another Hack the Box walkthrough. This time we're doing a box called Keeper. It is a retired machine. It's Linux and it's rated as easy. Personally, I didn't think it was that easy. The initial foothold and user flag was pretty easy to get to. The root flag was a whole lot of research and figuring things out, so it was far from easy for me. So without further ado, you can see I am connected to Hack the Box VPN, and I do have Keeper spun up, and here's the IP address. So first thing we did, we ran an mmap scan, service version detection T4 aggressive, and the only things that came back were 22 and 80. So what we did was we went to the IP address. And it says to raise an IT support ticket, please visit keeper.hacktheboxrt. So if you hover over that, it tells you tickets to keeper.hacktheboxrt. So obviously that's not going to work for us because we don't have a DNS server or anything like that. So what you need to do is sudo nano etc hosts, enter my password, and I added the following entries to my host file. So the IP address of the machine, and then I entered keeper.hackthebox, and then I entered tickets.keeper.hackthebox. So if you save that and go back to the website, when you click on this, it should take you to a login screen. Now, the login screen is for a program called Best Practical Request Tracker. So I really didn't know much about it at all. They are nice enough to give you the version right on the login screen, which is probably not a good idea. But I assumed, based on the fact that it was a request tracker, that it was some kind of ticketing system. So I did some research and I found on Best Practical's website the documentation for said software. So if we do a control F and I type in default, if we scroll down a bit, right here, we get this. The default credentials for RT are root and password. Not changing the root password from the default is a security risk. So I said, anytime you see a login box, you should immediately try default credentials. So we typed in root password. And lo and behold, it worked. So what we did was I poked around here. I went and looked at tickets. And I saw under recently viewed, there's an issue with KeePass on the client on Windows. And we noticed that the person who is assigned the ticket is this Lise Nordgaard, and obviously she is Nordic based on her name and the way her name is spelled. So it looks like there's a crash that was attached to a ticket, and if you look through all of these, uh, it says in here that they downloaded the crash dump to their home directory. Uh, let's see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. So Lise has this software in her. She downloaded the crash report to her her basically her home directory because it's a security issue, obviously, to have it in the ticket. So I was stuck for a little bit. I didn't really know what to do. So what I did was I copied Lisa's username and I just went to users up here. So if we go search users, and I pasted her name in and did a search, she comes up and there's a whole bunch of things you can do here. So if there's nothing really great here under inactive and assigned assets, there's nothing. There's the ticket she's working on, and then there's this information. But if you go over here, there's additional things. So if you go to memberships, group is a principal member of, yada, yada, yada. There's some history in here. I saw this and thought maybe that could be useful, but I don't really think it is. It's really when you go to back to her and you click on her name. So basically, like to edit her, you find this. New user, initial password set to welcome 2023 exclamation point. So in case you missed, you just search on her, and if you go in and click on her name, like you're going to edit her, you like right here, like basics. So if you go to memberships, if you go to back to basics, you can see you'll find the password right here. So I assumed that Lise would be able to SSH into the box. So my next move was to do just that. So we're going to do SSH, use her username at the IP address, and then we're going to type her password, which was capital welcome 2023 exclamation point. And we got a shell. So the first thing we're going to do is ls, and then there's the user.txt. I won't show you the flag, but we definitely have access to it. And you can see there's the rt30,000.zip, which I'm assuming is the KeePass crash dump report that they have talked about in the ticket. So what I did was I came back to my computer. I'm actually going to kill that. I'm going to go here. And I'm going to go into the downloads folder. Get rid of these. And I'm going to go open a terminal here. And what I'm going to do is, to make this easy, because I want to get a file from the exploited machine to mine, is I'm just going to do it with an FTP server. So I'm going to do Python 3. The module is pyftpdlib. We want it on port 21, and we want to make it writable. So I'm going to hit enter. So now when we go back to the exploited machine, we can do FTP 10.10.14.185, which is my IP address. We can log in anonymous, and then the password would be anonymous. We're logged in, and we're just going to do put rt30123.zip. Okay, this is going to take a second, so I'm going to pause the video until it's done. Okay, we're back. As you can see, the file finished transferring, so we are good to go. So I'm just going to type quit, and we're back to the command line. So if we go back to our downloads, we can click extract here. And I've extracted it into another folder as well, but I'm just going to show you what's here. So if we go into it, there's a KeePass dump file and then a KeePass passcodes kdbx. So this is like the database. So this is where it just took me forever to figure this out. Like I couldn't open these files at all. So I was doing all kinds of research, and I'm going to be honest with you, I finally found this. It is a KeePass dump master key extractor. Most of the things that I found needed to be done on Windows, and you had to install .NET, and I'm like, nah, I'm not doing all that. So I found this proof of concept Python tool, which basically can extract or do its best. Let's put it that way. I mean, it's not going to give you the exact password. There's going to be some more things you need to do, but it worked. It worked very well. So what you need to do is you just come over here, you download the code, and you can see I've already downloaded it. Okay, so we're going to go to the directory where that is. So let's see here. And I have the POC right here. Okay, so what you need to do is open a terminal, and you need to follow the instructions, which are actually very simple. It is Python 3, poc.py, and then the path that you want to dump. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the downloads folder and I'm going to redump it so you can see exactly what happens. So we're going to actually copy this into here, which is the proof of concept we just downloaded. And then we're going to open a terminal here. So if we follow the instructions right here, Python 3 poc.py, and then the name of the keyboard, the name of the dump. Okay, so we'll do that right now. We'll do an ls. You can see the name of the dump is keypass. So all we got to do is Python 3, and then we're going to do poc.py keypass.dump. Okay, this is going to take a second. And this will extract what it thinks the master password is. It extracts several variations because it cannot, obviously, it had some trouble with, if you remember, this was okay, right? That's just an artifact. It looks like it has trouble with this. And these, obviously, these are not passwords, right? So literally what I did was I copied this and I went to Google and pasted it in. And it comes up like it's pretty obvious what this is. And if you remember, that lease is Nordic, okay? So I copied this and figured it was the password. Where is it? Right here. Now, I'm assuming that based on this, that it's going to be all lowercase. Okay. So if you manipulate that, change it, this is what the password would be. So all I did was lowercase the R, because I think on the website it was, oh no, it was uppercase. So I lowercase both the R and the F. I just made them lowercase, and that's the password. I didn't know it at the time that it was the password, but it is the password. The next thing the next problem I had to figure out was, how do I use KeePass on, because KeePass is a Windows machine. There's like unofficial ports to Linux and stuff, and I was like, bro, I'm not installing this on my Windows computer. So I did some more research and I found this kpcli, which is a simple command line tool to interact with a KeePass database. Okay, so if you install the database, you should be able to essentially just open it up using this tool, kpcli. So that's what I did. You got to do apt install kpcli, and it will install it for you. Okay. And the way that you open the actual password file is this. So if you do an ls, see I got the kbdx right here. Okay. So what we're going to do is, and actually I don't have this open, but there's a lock file there. So that worries me a little bit. Maybe it didn't recover when I did this box the first time. But the command to open it is kpcli. So you could see it's already resolved. And then it's tac kbd and then passcodes, right? it may be open somewhere else. So we're just going to take our chances here and make sure it's not open. hopefully this works. So now I'm going to copy that exact password that we figured out. I'm going to paste it in here. Let's see what happens. Cross your fingers. It actually worked. Okay, so you remember the password is obviously this right here with a lowercase r and a lowercase f. So I had no idea how to use this software, honestly. So obviously they give you the help. So that's what I did. I typed help. And it works kind of like just like Linux. You just do an ls. So ls lists the items in the pwd or the specified paths. So the first thing I did was I typed ls, and it says passcodes, and that you can actually change directories into those, right? So I did cd passcodes, did an ls again, and then there was a bunch of them. And I went through all of them. The one that you're worried about is network. So cd network ls. Now there's the keeper.hackthebox ticketing server and the ticketing system. We don't need the ticketing system because we already logged in as her. She left her password. The password is, well, no, this is probably roots. So we could probably log into the ticketing system as root, but that really wouldn't get us much. I immediately saw keeper.hackthebox ticketing server, and that's what we want to do. So we want to, what was the command to do that? Show right here, show an entry. So we want to type show 0. And then I was like, crap. This is a putty private, key, an identity file. And I was like, how can I use SSH with a putty PPK file? So if you don't know this, I've come from, I have a pretty good, substantial Windows background, and we used to use putty all the time. And to use identity files to log in with putty, they're called PPK files, right? So I found on Ask Ubuntu, somebody asked the same question, like, how do I SSH using a PPK file? So somebody gives you the instructions like right here. Like I didn't even know this existed. You have to install putty-tools, okay? So sudo apt-get install putty-tools. Then you need to convert your PPK to a PEM, which you use the puttygen in putty-tools to do that. So you would name puttygen, whatever you name the PPK, and then the rest of this, tac uppercase O private open SSH, tac lowercase o, whatever you want to name the PEM key. Then of course you'll get that error that this key is not secure unless you do chmod to it, and then you would SSH using the identity file just like you would however if you had an RSA key or anything like that. So this was a pain in the butt. So basically what you have to do, and I'll show you, is, and I'm not going to do it again because it was a lot of work. I'll just show you. So first of all, you got to open gedit because you're going to be editing. Then you got to copy this putty file, right? You go into gedit and you paste. Now the problem is all this white space has got to go away. So you got to sit here and literally back it all up. Well, I backed that one up too far. And then just keep doing this, right? I already have that done. So I'm just going to X out of here. I don't want to save it. And if we actually exit, we can do an ls, and I can show you. I have the key PPK, so I'm just going to do a nano on key PPK. This is what I called the key, so you're going to have to create a new file, call it key PPK, and then you're going to paste it in, or you're going to do it in gedit and just save it as key PPK or whatever you want to call it, but it's got to be .ppk, okay? And you got to remember the name of it because you're going to be using it in the command. So you can see how here there's no white space. I cleaned it all up. Okay, so we're going to hit Control to get out, Control X, and we're going to do an ls again. And you can see I already created it, but I'm going to do it again just to show you what it looks like. So we're going to do putty gen key ppk open ssh, and then what we'll do is I'll just call this key 1, okay, because I want to create a new one. So basically I'm taking that key that I just created, the ppk, and I'm outputting it to an open ssh format PEM file. Okay, so we hit enter, we do an ls. Now I have key 1 there too. Okay, so if we do nano key 1, that looks more like a file that SSH would use. Okay, so we're going to Control X, I mean, to exit. The next thing you have to do to key, I'm going to do it to key 1, is chmod. Well, let me show you before I do that. So I don't want to do this yet. I want to show you why you need to do this. So lsail. You can see my key.pem is read only. Key.1 is read write. So if you try to use this key, you're going to get an SSH error that will say this key's not secured, and it's not going to allow you to use it. So the way you fix that is chmod, and we're going to do it to key 1, right? Now if we do an lsail, the key's read only, which means that it will work now when you try to SSH. You'll learn the hard way if you forget to do this, because it won't work. SSH will not allow you to, open SSH will not allow you to use it. Okay, so now that we have our PEM file, what we're going to do is we are going to log in as root. I didn't know it at the time. I just tried root. I assumed it was root based on the fact that the only other person in the ticketing system besides Lise is root. Okay, so we do SSH. We want to use the identity file key.pem, and we want to log in as root on 10.129.85.251. Okay, we're going to hit enter, and we're in. So now we can do an ls. And you can see we have the root.txt, the SQL folder, and we actually have another copy of that dump. What I'm going to show you the flag, but I'll blur it out, don't worry. So we're going to do cat, just to show you I have access to it, root.txt. And there it is. Okay, so there is zero chance that this is an easy machine, at least for mortals like me. What we had to do was, first and foremost, we had to do an mmap scan. We found 80 was open and 22 was open. We went to 80. It told us we needed to go to keeper.hack the box. So we went into the host file and we added entries for keeper.hackthebox and tickets.keeper.hackthebox. Once we went to the ticketing system, we went to Best Practical's website, found the default credentials for their request system. It was root and password. We logged in with root and password. We saw there was a ticket open. The technician assigned to it was Lise. You could tell she was Nordic just by the way her name was spelled. And we figured out that she had downloaded the crash dump to her home directory, and when we went to her user account on the ticketing system, we found her new user password in the comments, which is always a bad practice. So we SSH'd into the machine. We figured out that the zip file contained the crash and a database, so we uploaded that to our attack machine. We figured out that we needed to not only extract the master password from the dump file, but once we had that master password, we had to install kpcli, which is a command line tool that allows you to interact with a KeePass database. So we figured out the password by having it run through the program, which we downloaded, and I will include a link to the description, a link to it in the description below. The poc.py was able to extract most of the password. It couldn't get a couple of characters. We just threw that into Google, and it came up that it is a dish, a Nordic dish. So I copied that name of that Nordic dish, and I made everything lowercase. and I was able to use the kpcli tool to log in using that password. Once we did that, we found a putty key or identity file. So we had to create a ppk file, clean it up, and then we also used a tool called putty-tools, which allowed us to take a tool called putty-gen and convert the ppk to a PEM. Once we had the PEM file, we just SSH'd into the machine as root using the identity file, just like we would if we had any RSA key or anything like that. So this was pretty complicated. I cannot believe that this is an easy box. I'll say it again, maybe I'm just not that talented, but I hope you learned something. I certainly did. It took me a complete day to figure the whole second half of this box out. I will include all the links in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you think I'm an idiot, please just drop it below and I'll be happy to engage with you. I just want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.